focusing on funk music in particular, why do you think, Chris, that it, hasn't caught on in terms of being, more thought of as a mainstream music, genre of its own, right there with blues and with rock and with country? Why is it the funk is kind of, kept swept under the rug a little bit?
I think one reason is you don't have a lot of musicians now producing it. Funk is something, okay, and I've said this in different interviews. Funk is something you have to live, and if you're not a musician, it's almost impossible to live funk. Okay, you can sing good, but you cannot sing funk, really. As great of a singer as James Brown was, right? His voice alone is not funk. He had to have those beats and those rhythms and those grooves. See, that's funk. And musicians create that. And so now, if you don't have that music being produced and delivered, to say, radio stations and promoted and marketed, some people are going to say, oh, well, maybe funk's not happening anymore. Maybe let's try to play another. Because when I was coming up, like I said, I mentioned all the bands. There were so many bands that could play funk, and there was a lot of it out there. And as a result of the production of the music, it was being every week you had another funk song coming out, from somebody. And then it was like, all right, let's go 30 years in the future. How many bands are out there doing anything? Where is it? I record. Only reason I can record funk on my albums is I can play it. You know what I mean? How many people can play it? That's what I mean. Funk relies on musicianship.
Mm-hmm.
That's what it relies on, and that's why I started off talking about the vocal thing. The vocal thing is great, but hey, who can play it? Where's the Larry Grahams? Where's the Johnson brothers? Where's all these funk people at? Where are they? I don't know.
They maybe went into hip hop instead.
I hear house stuff. I hear, hip hop. I don't hear any funk because that requires musicians. And musicians that have a certain knack for counterpoint and syncopation and all those things that make up a funk groove. Every drummer is not a funk drummer. Every keyboard player is not a funk keyboard player. Every guitar player is not a funk guitar player.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned, folks like yourself that, have it in your DNA pretty much.
Yeah, you have to live funk. You have to live that music, and understand the different nuances of it, and like I said, the counterpoint, the rhythm, the touch. Sometimes it's just touch. You know what I mean? I was talking to my son the other day. He's writing music, and I said, you know what? I said there was a part in that lady where I didn't even play notes really on the clavinet. I just played a feel and a rhythm, and the rhythm was the thing that worked. In the break, in the rhythmic break. I said, I could have played a lot of different notes in that, segment, but it didn't work as well as just the groove, the feel, and sometimes it's just that, and that's what I mean, knowing what to do, when, how, and all that. That's what funk is made out of. And if you get some musicians in a room, they'll tell you it's hard to teach a person how. You just have to be around people to do it and play it. That's why the Stones went to Muscle Shoals, man. They wanted to learn about the blues. They said, we're not gonna learn it in England here. We're gonna have to go where the blues is being played. So They packed up and went to America, you know. And hey, we're on that, you know. Keith Richards, he got with those guys, you know, and yeah, okay, and he's a blues guitar player now, you know. Well, for many years, but he had to go where it was and immerse himself in it, you know. And then, you know, he's a bad dude on guitar, man. But you know what I'm saying? You got to go and get into it somehow. And musicians aren't getting into funk anymore. You know, they say, okay, we just do a beat and let's, you know, play a couple of chords and we got a song. You know, usually that's what happens. That's not funk.
Well, but if you look at the you know, funk progenitors that were around in the 70s and early 80s doing it, that are still around today, like yourself, or, you know, Confunction or Lakeside, or these kind of bands, it seems to me that, you know, when they make records, they're mellower now. They're not bringing the funk as much as they used to on record when they do a record. And I'm wondering, you know, of course you mellow with age, but, you know, why do you think that might be? And when I look, you know, particularly, Chris, at similar bands like on the rock side, say like an AC/DC or ZZ Top, or, you know, the Stones or Aerosmith, they still seem to kind of bring the rock like they did many years ago.
You're right.
But some of the funk bands kind of shy away from it, and they're not continuing to bring the funk. And maybe if they did, it would help inspire more younger, you know, musicians.
I agree with you. I agree with you on that, because I think a lot of them sometimes will maybe try to go close to a trend that's happening, you know, rather than bringing the authentic thing.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? And like, I don't agree with that. You know, I put Man Up on the one album, my album previous to Share With Me. Man Up is funk. I don't care. I mean, it's the heavy funk. And that's, if I'm gonna play funk, that's what I'm gonna play. I'm not gonna play something that's nice and light, you know, that might go in this format and that, or else I'm just gonna do a ballad. I'm gonna do something else, you know what I mean? I'm not gonna play a funk. But if I'm gonna record a funk record, like I have something called Funky Thing on Share With Me, it's funk. It's not halfway, it's all the way. You know, and that's what I believe in, recording the real article, if you would. You know what I mean? I'm a firm believer in that. And that's why I still record my music the way I record it, is because that's what I've done for like all my career. And a lot of my fans know me that way. They identify my music that way. So I'm gonna bring it the way I've always brought it. And I think that's why that there might be, like you start off saying, you know, funk, not a lot of funk records, is because people will wonder, well, should I do the original thing? Should I do the original article? You know, and my answer to that is yes, because if you don't, how's a person going to know what it is? How's a person going to know one thing from the next? You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm.
It's going to be a watered. Why bring a watered down version of something? You know, I don't follow that one. I know people are trying to sell records, but at the same time, there's no guarantee that a watered down version is going to sell either. You know what I mean? Especially as crazy as the business is now.
Yeah,
there's no guarantee that's going to sell either.
Yeah, that's you know, authenticity. I mean, that's,
yeah.
I think